Hello guys, it's good to be back again. Please like, subscribe and share. And I keep informing you on the geopolitical game that's happening in the world. And please engage me on the comments. And thank you for all those who have been engaging me. So without further ado, let's get straight away. So today I'm looking at you know India geopolitical position in terms of why it's being so neutral when it comes to between the Western and the and the Russian and the Chinese bloc. Because when you see India, it's a very big country with over a billion people, a very promising manufacturing base, labor base, very advanced in the field of medicine. But why is it being neutral? The fact that it's an aspiring superpower. There are a few reasons why I think that India is neutral. Let's not forget, when the invasion of Ukraine and the invasion of Russia into Ukraine started, India was under pressure by Western country to cut off Russia because the Western country understood that immediately they sanctioned Russia because of oil. Russia was going to divert its market to India and China. And China is on another level. So China doesn't take orders from anyone these days. So they knew they couldn't convince um, China. So they went ahead and tried to convince India. We remember that immediately Liz Truss was the foreign minister in Britain, flew to India, tried to convince them to cut off Russian gas. It fell on deaf ears. We remember the Biden administration pressuring India, the European Union pressuring India, even though the European Union was consuming more gas and oil than India. I remember the foreign minister of India. I found him to be a very intelligent guy, being very adamant on Europe and America to stop pushing them because and stop blaming them that they're funding the war in Ukraine, and yet Europe is buying more oil than India. I remember him saying that that he has to watch out for the interest of he has to watch out for the interest of his own citizen. A country of GDP of $2,000. He said if oil prices go up, this will be catastrophic to the economy. So they have to go to the buyer who gives the best price, and that buyer at the time was Russia. Most of oil from India used to come from the Middle East, but it's slowly shifting into Russian hands. There's even a talk of a pipeline being built all the way from Russia through Pakistan, all these countries all the way to India. India is a very strategic partner in both sides. Go to the other field, you realize that India and the Western world, they do a lot of trade. In fact, most Indians are very, have achieved high status in this Western country. Go to Britain, one of the largest property owner, the largest business people are Indians. So Indians have gone up the social ladder in Western countries. On the other hand, Russia and India have always had a good friendship, especially in terms of you know, military treaties and, in terms of Russia providing India with military equipment because most of India's submarines are purchased from Russia, the old Soviet submarines, the Brahmas missile systems, the long range missiles, they are co-designing with the Russians, the AK-47. So India and Russia have been very good. In fact, India is one of the largest arms buyer from Russia. So India is walking a very tight rope when it comes to this geopolitical game. And I feel for the Indians, they are not happy that they are receiving so much pressure from the outside world. And I'll give two accounts. I'll not two, just some few accounts how I see it. When you go back in the US, in the time of USSR and America, India is now the same position that China was. China was being pushed to make a decision. We remember that China started as an ally of USSR, but slowly faded away to the Western side. Because you must understand that even though China had a big population and a promising future, they were applying this, the system of bide your time, the one that Deng Xiaoping, implemented very wisely, because Deng Xiaoping, who's the economic founding father of China, he realized that for China to be superpower, it needs to lay low, create its own manufacturing base, its own wealth, understand the political game, the geopolitical game of the world, and then come show its true colors. So at that time, China was always biding its time. So it was easy for it to pick side. And also at times it played neutral because at that time it didn't have military power or economic might. And remember the time that in the 90s when China tried to take over Taiwan forcefully, America intervened and China was really scared. America sent Navy ship and, you know, and to a show of force, and China got really scared and they understood that they were not powerful enough to face such an enemy. And also remember that during that time, China tried to work with all partners. I remember, reading reports of how China is building Africa. The railway from Zambia to Tanzania was built by the Chinese. So Chinese were not in a position to talk. So you come to look at India. For me, they look like they are biding their time. The first sign of aggression when India tried to show that it can be aggressive, because India has never been perceived as an aggressive country, was the Kashmir issue between Pakistan, which most countries didn't take very good, especially Pakistan. So that was the first instance that India was trying to be, a dominating kind of country. But it can't also push its limit. That's why you find that I feel that India is really playing. It's really playing ball. Using the two superpowers. Benefiting from Russia from oil and the military equipment, and also benefiting from the Western side through strong military alliance, strong financial system, and it understands that it cannot pick one side because it might lose. So it's biding its time. That's the phrase. They are biding their time because they haven't reached the point that where the Chinese have reached, where they can make a decision that we are going to side with Russia, like how they declared a no limits partnership, and they don't fear the consequences, even though China is not fully there. But over the coming years, we're gonna see China foreign policy now be starting to become very, very straightforward, because China has now shed away the bide your time policy. When Xi Jinping entered in 2012, he said that the era of biding the time is over. Now China has to make its own course, regardless of who accepts it. It has to show its own true colors. And I feel that's where India it is. It understands that it cannot start to challenge, you know, to enter into to become a pawn in this geopolitical game, especially now when it's now starting to revive its manufacturing sector industry, because the Western side, the American side, are investing heavily in India's manufacturing sector. The new iPhone is made in India, so it means also the Indian economy needs a lot of energy, and the only person can provide that energy is Russia. So you can understand these two dynamics. The Western financial systems are bringing the money, and the energy to sustain the economy is being provided by the Russia. So they feel that at this point, they need to, whatever feelings they have or how they look at the geopolitical game, or who they say they feel that their own interests are paramount, and they need to work effectively to ensure that first of all they achieve their own, they get out of their own comfort zone and become powerful. So to become a very, to become to come into a negotiating table, because I feel even the Indian diplomats and the state level executive didn't feel good when they were being lectured. Russia was saying that any country that votes against it, will face consequences. The issue of the oil price cap. Russia was saying any country that supports the price cap will get their oil withdrawn. America was saying, you need to cut off. They felt like they were being used in a chess game, and especially when countries like Europe were still buying oil and doing all this transaction, and India was not being let off the hook. So India understands that the game of politics, that it's not here yet, and that's why it's trying to bide its time, work with both of them, also try and pretend to. I wouldn't say pretend, but try to play a mediator. Try to show itself as a responsible. You know, responsible government. We know that the fact that India was pushing for Russian oil, America immediately designated India that its human rights record has been going down. And with the issues of India lacking religious tolerance, there is a lot of religious people are not the Indian community or the Indian citizens are not being seen to be religious tolerant. tolerant. They're not accepting other religions, are coexistent. So this just shows you that, India is playing a very delicate game. The other day it attended the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, a summit of which involves China, even though it has an issue with China at the LAC. It involves Russia. It's a security sharing intelligence summit. The other side, it is in alliance called the Quad. Between America, between America, Australia, yeah, and India, in terms of containing China. Also, Japan is there. So you see that, you know, it's very hard to tell which side India is, because at one point it's working together with Russia and China, and the other side it's working with and this is also making the Americans, not to feel like India is a reliable partner, especially the fact that India is the largest democracy in the world. And Americans are very worried because they feel they might make the same mistake they made in China. When they were taking China out of the USSR arm, they thought that by investing in China, promoting growth, China would eventually move to a democracy. People start making money, they starting want freedom, but it backfired on them. In fact, the China even became authoritarian. The government even took over control of the system. Now it became a communist capitalist system where the government, makes all the rules, controls everything, but ensures everyone is making money. So it backfired on them, and now there is that fear that, also investing in India because they thought India is the biggest democracy, it's a growing democracy, but talks of authoritarianism, from the government, the issue I've just said of the Kashmir, you know, Kashmir, Pakistani issue, So the American government is very wary, and it's the same script again. They're investing in India, but India is continuing, interacting with this other country. But when you look from the Indian point of perspective, they understand that they don't want entanglement. Entanglement right now is not good for business because, you know, they understand that the world we are going is a global world, a multipolar world where there are going to be many superpower. You need to be friends with everyone. So they see the future as a future where you cannot pick sides. You need to work with everyone, understand everyone, because they saw how things went during the Cold War. All countries that took side, the countries that supported the USSR, immediately the USSR collapsed. Those countries fell into anarchy. Their political system, economic system were destroyed. So they don't want to rely on one partner. They understand that even though there are issues between India and China and all these other countries, they understand that they need to be neutral. And also, India has its own selfish and its own dominance of Asia because it wants to compete with China. So it sees that it cannot let China to take over Asia. It needs also to play a part in you know, in being a big player in the Asian future. We saw that India is very active in Myanmar, giving aid. In Sri Lanka, it's trying to bail out the government. You know, Bangladesh, India is trying to play superpower, Asia, trying to come to the rescues of these countries and trying to, to offer relief. I've just said, in the Ukraine-Russian war, they're trying to portray that they can mediate the war, pushing both parties to find a solution. But it will be interesting to see where India, what position it takes. But for me, I feel that Indians won't take any position at right now. They are biding their time. They understand it's very risky because the economy, their population depend on that. They need to play neutral. That's the best situation they can do. And for now, they are not in the position of China, Western countries where they've already made a stand on Russia. They understand that, the responsibility of their domestic population is paramount and they need to work with everyone. So I'll continue observing and seeing how, it goes. And for all those, that I'm supporting, I'm very thankful. Until we meet next time. Cheers, guys.